All haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. For haters of Rick Walker, Sanctuary is available in the chat on Rumble Channel 2. Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live. From the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
I have been sleeping, but it is time to wake up. I apologize to everyone who has sent messages today. One way or another, I was sleeping. However, I was dreaming, occasionally waking up, and in my haze, would think about what we talked about here last night. Artificial intelligence, videos, information warfare. It's clear to me we are under attack. And let me check my microphone. I don't know if we're okay or not. I'm going to do this, and we've had so many technical problems here in the past day. Is that okay? I believe that's better. I will go over and look in the chat on Rumble Channel 1. Yeah. Okay. Let me know if the audio is all right. I think, yeah, we're okay. Thank you. So, a lot of things have changed. And I felt yesterday after the broadcast like maybe we've already lost the battle, lost the war. I'll tell you why later in the broadcast. It's all related to the AI stuff, and the politics and the 51st state stuff. And I think we're in a heap of trouble. It may be too late. Big Brother has arrived. That's the thumbnail for tonight. And that affects everything else we are going to touch on this evening. The tariffs. Carney talking about supporting the lumber industry in Canada, making an announcement. Also saying that Canada does not dump lumber into the United States. We see Trump wandering around almost aimlessly on the roof of the White House, not exactly sure why, but engaging with reporters in a weird little exchange today. We'll show you some of that. We have Charlie Angus, Canadian, politician, calling the United States administration under Trump today basically a fascist nation. And there's evidence to support that. And what else do we have? We have artificial intelligence threatening Hollywood. It's happening at an accelerated pace. Every day, all of this stuff is rolling out faster and faster and faster. We don't have much time. But I didn't even want to do this tonight because I have been so engaged. It has been difficult to sleep, and I'm a human. I'm not an artificially generated entity. I'm a real human being, and I get tired. But I wanted to come on tonight. I felt it was important because I think we're actually, I did send an email back overnight to someone important to me and to this program. And I said, what did I say exactly? I said, remember yesterday, I'm going to look it up. I'm so tired. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it's important because everything goes back to yesterday for me. It was a wake-up call because of the exchange we had here with Johnny from Toronto. It scared me. Yeah. We are. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just take the little break, and I'll have it for you when I come back on the other side. It's an important broadcast, I think. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yeah. So, yeah, my message was really quite simple. I just said we were talking about raising the standard, not the tolerance. And I responded and I said, the standard is now artificial. And I said, remember yesterday, the day we may have lost everything. And I meant it. It was a little, my message back is cryptic. But it's because of this video here. I guess I'll start with this because it is, I think, the most important thing facing us right now. So this is, we talked about with Johnny, and there's a new thing, a new development with regard to this, even within the last 24 hours that I've become aware of. I'm not just rehashing yesterday's broadcast. There's already a new development. So Here's this video of what appears to be economist Richard Wolff, but it's not Richard Wolff. It's an AI, artificial intelligence generated video of Richard Wolff. So Johnny from Toronto sent me the link to this. Not last night, the night before. So I became aware of it overnight. And I watched it. Never thought much of it at first, but then I realized there's something odd about this video. Richard Wolff, of course, has quite a large following, university professor, Marxist, by the way. So take note of that for whatever that's worth to people. I don't agree with a lot of what he says. Some things I do agree with. He is an economist, although I think he's as much a political activist and a social activist as much or more than an economist, as many economists are, frankly, especially on the left. He's on the left. He's not a conservative by any stretch, but this isn't Richard Wolff. This is an AI-generated Richard Wolff. First red flag that went up is the video that Johnny sent was dealing with subject matter related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's an economist. Why is he digging into, jumping into the Epstein stuff? He will, because he does deal with a lot of social things, but it just seemed odd that that would be his focus, not economics, macro or micro. Anyway, I'll just play a little bit of it here.
Or in global wealth, and now
let me just slow it down.
The United Kingdom, with its long tradition of monarchy, secrecy, and scandal management, has inadvertently ripped the bandage off a wound many hoped would quietly fade into history. This week, documents from a respected royal historian, Andrew Lowy, tied to his series.
Okay, so as I watched this, I was like, there's something wrong. And the content also sent up red flags for me, hitting on those key subjects that just undermine trust in our institutions and our government. Well, Trump, just attacking Trump, attacking also the monarchy. So you're getting a double whammy, a twofer. Seems to me that, and the look of the whole YouTube channel just struck me as being in tune with a lot of these sort of fake news sites and news channels that have popped up over the last few years, many of them run by Russia. This one, I think, pretty good chance it's a Russian information war channel. And make no mistake, Russia is the best at it. They have the most sophisticated information warfare set up in the world. It's pretty clear to me that that's what it is. And on the U.S. side, well, the CIA gets attacked and accused of this, and they do engage in some of this stuff. The truth of the matter is the Trump administration actually went in and through Doge actually cut the budget entirely for the main small operation that was being used as the only line of defense in the United States against foreign infiltration, if you will, or manipulation of social media through information warfare coming into the United States through social media platforms. Very interesting. So the U.S. is almost defenseless against this stuff, except for whatever layers of defense might be built into the social media platforms themselves. It's true. Look it up if you don't believe me, but the United States cut the budget. So now they don't have really any defense against this stuff. Then you have J.D. Vance jetting off to Europe and making those statements about, there's no place for censorship. And if European countries don't allow just free for all on social media, essentially, then they probably don't have much of a democracy to begin with. That's a paraphrase. Then tie into that what Trump did with Carney during these trade negotiations over the tariffs, insisting that Canada drop its digital services tax against the social media giants. Then look at the social media giants, the CEOs, the Zuckerbergs, right? The Bezoses, all of them, Musk, bending the knee to Trump coming into the White House, sucking up to him during his inauguration. Kevin O'Leary jetting on down to Mar-a-Lago with Danielle Smith to talk about setting up an artificial intelligence hub or research facility or company in Alberta, potentially, where they, of course, need a lot of energy to run that. Or not, it wasn't even so much about setting it up with Trump. He wanted to buy TikTok, right? And then set up the AI facility in Alberta. And so he's bending the knee to Trump with Danielle Smith to get some sort of a deal so he can be one of the main investors in the TikTok purchase. Remember them going down there? That was part of it. And O'Leary, not an elected official, but there he is joined at the hip to the Alberta premier. All of these things are related to each other. It's happening very, very quickly. We know that Musk also through Doge has had access at unprecedented levels to all the digital information, all the data, all your background files if you're a U.S. citizen, probably for every U.S. citizen alive and dead. He knows probably more about everybody every U.S. citizen than anybody else out there. He's a dangerous man. To Trump, he's a dangerous man to the world. Information is power. Information can be used for wealth. He has the most powerful social media platform ever developed, the most powerful media platform ever developed, I think, through X at this point, because he's infiltrated all these different countries around the world, where he now is able to apply incredible influence and even manipulate elections himself. He's a kingmaker. He paid to have Donald Trump elected, $270 some million. And for a while, he was in the White House himself. And I have to wonder if some of this friction between the two of them, the feuding, isn't just something of political theater. Maybe there's still pretty good buds behind the scenes. Who knows? Regardless, Musk has immense power. Back to the Richard Wolff video. So here's the video of Richard Wolff again. It sent up a lot of red flags. I suspected in short order that this was an AI generated video. It's not like if you're fed this video online, you don't see that it's AI. There's no disclaimer at the beginning of the video or anything when it pops up. It isn't really apparent just from the main description. It is in there in a disclaimer. If you go to the channel, you will find that they do admit or acknowledge that this is an AI generated video, both of the image and the voice. So Johnny sent it to me. He sends me a lot of stuff. And we had just had a conversation on this program the night before where I said to him, one of the reasons you and I have these conversations where we disagree so much is, and one of the reasons we're concerned about some of the material you bring here and post and promote on this platform is one of the reasons is, Johnny, you sometimes, quite often, bring actual fake news sites here and you direct people to them, including me. You want me to go look at these fake news sites. And when I say fake, I mean they are absolute 100% just run by a political organization or quite often foreign governments where it's just fake, total fake news, where they put some truth into it, but it's propaganda and it's all designed to manipulate you. Absolute fake. This is an example of that. So, well, he's sort of saying, no, I don't. It's not. Yes, these are real. No, they're not. Some of the things you send me are, some of them aren't verifiable as being fake news sites. But even as I've shown Johnny, it's very hard to convince him because he's just dug in and he thinks that I'm just brainwashed or whatever he's thinking. And you can, but as again, this back to the thing that I was saying the night before that, truth is elusive. but a lie is just a lie at the end of the day. Doesn't matter how many people believe it. It doesn't matter how many people repeat it. It doesn't matter if you've seen it on 100 different websites. If you think that by going to a bunch of different sites and you're seeing it all there, it doesn't mean that it's true. Because if you go to 5 fake news websites and you get the same information, then that's not true. It doesn't make it true. It might be true, but the truth is the truth. A lie is a lie. But the truth is elusive because the truth is complicated. The truth isn't always black and white. And more than one thing can be true at the same time because it's complicated. But a lie is just a lie. And keeping a lie going often requires that you tell a whole bunch of other lies to keep people believing the lie. Eventually, the truth will come out because it's just the truth and it's undeniable in the end. But that can take a long time. It can take a long time for the truth to catch up. So even as I watched this, I said, there's something wrong. And then I went and I actually spent some time to figure it out. And I watched a couple of the videos, a few of the videos, and there was something that was very similar to about them. And then I ran this, and I'll run it again tonight because we went black screen. I'm not even sure if some of the stuff I was broadcasting last night went out there to people. So I'll run this again. What I did is I found 2 videos where he's wearing the same shirt. And there are a number of them where he's wearing the same shirt. Because it occurred to me that there was a lot of similarities. What I was able to do is I was able to take I just took 2 videos, 2 different ones with different subject matter where he's saying different things, and yet it's a pattern. Watch the video in case you missed this last night. Watch this, how sophisticated it is, but look at how his head goes up and down and the way it moves. Exactly the same, even though he's saying a completely different thing.
About responsible spending or partisan disagreement. View like it's a political not. The media, as always, floods you with distractions, pointless culture wars, political theater, manufactured scandals, but they won't touch one of the most notorious predators. And here it is: the American government, under both Democrats and Republicans, has built an economy on theft from the poor and the middle to fund the insatiable appetite of the rich. The most glaring example: Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut bill. That bill was not just a transfer of wealth, it was a declaration of allegiance. To whom? Corporations and the...
If you can't, so clearly you can see that this is using an algorithm or a pattern or whatever you want to call it, but the computer is spitting out a slightly altered version of the same video where there's lip syncing technology that is used. So they're creating and you can hear the synthetic nature of the audio and the voice. It's definitely digitally created to mimic Richard Wolff's voice. And then you see that he's moving his head in exactly the same pattern and even blinking at the same time. Because the computer has not developed to the level yet where it's building in enough randomness to make it even more realistic. I have been involved. I started, do I still have my camera out here? I've shown you before this, like it's not over here. It's over there somewhere. An old 8mm film camera, like wind up, right? I've been involved in media all my life since I was a kid. Started making film movies, splicing them together, saving up my allowance and cutting lawns and things when I was like 9 years old, 10 years old to get film to make movies. Went to university, college, I've studied media. I've video production. I spent the last 2 days cutting video to pay the bills. It's largely what I do. So in this area, I have a little bit of knowledge. That's why I was able to pick up on this. That's the only reason I even zeroed in on this and said, I think this is fake. And then I went and proved it. But problem is last night when Johnny was on with us, like he called in and a number of people did. We had a conversation about it. And yet Johnny, even as I'm showing him, still skeptical of me. Fair enough. But I'm showing you the proof. Then I went and I found the disclaimer on YouTube because YouTube's aware of it. So they require you to declare if you are using AI generated content on their platform. And so they do. But in order to be aware of that, you have to go to the channel and look down and find that disclaimer yourself. Otherwise, they're not telling you. And so they're not really being completely upfront with you. And with content like this, I submit to you that if they're not being completely transparent, completely upfront about it, especially on political matters like this, you need to be very, very careful about the information they're sharing. And then even after that, even after I showed Johnny on the site that they are generating AI, and I'm not trying to cut Johnny down here at all because so many people are just in this state of mind. And he was like, still skeptical. Well, yeah, but the information is still good. Well, no, not really. It's really not good because it's very political and they're getting some things wrong. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, Carney walks out of talks. Okay, so now, if you're on one side of the political aisle here in Canada, maybe this makes you happy, maybe not. But this is a pro-Canadian, anti sort of Trump message in this video on this site with Richard Wolff, and yet I'm like, well, wait a minute. I think we need to be careful about this. So just listen to him.
There are moments in geopolitics when the tide shifts not with the roar of a cannon, but with the cold, deliberate silence of a well-played move. What Canada just did right under Washington's nose was exactly that. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was devastating, and most Americans completely unaware. Why? Because the media that serves their empire rarely explains when the empire gets humiliated by a so-called junior partner. But I will. Let me explain what happened clearly and economically. Donald Trump, in a desperate attempt to rekindle his political brand, imposed a brutal 35% tariff on Canadian goods. That was the spectacle. That was the performance. He thought Canada would buckle. That is the illusion imperial powers often carry. They believe that because they once bullied a nation, they always can. But history and economics have a different memory. Canada responded, not with bluster, but with precision. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland didn't yell. She didn't posture. She got on the phone. And when that phone call ended, the first wave of retaliation was quiet but seismic. Canada froze nearly $25 billion in U.S. agricultural and energy contracts, triggering a massive rerouting of trade flows not just away from the U.S., but toward China and the EU.
Imagine being...
And they, oh, look.
Thinking about it.
They're making money.
44.
It's oh yeah, this whole
made for
AI
anyone with an idea.
They're making money on ads. The AI generated video on the AI video channel is making ads from an AI for an AI company. But just a few things. Did you notice, like, who's the finance minister? It isn't Chrystia Freeland. It was for a while, but it isn't. And also in the description. So they're getting things wrong. And because they don't tell you when. And so you could say, well, you'd have to say, well, she was, and then Trump's tariff wars sort of, it started before. No, they're not being accurate. The other thing is, if you go to the channel, it even says right here, In a shocking turn of events, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has walked out of trade negotiations and frozen key economic ties with the United States, sending shockwaves through Washington. And this is dated August 4th. Well, Justin Trudeau is not the Prime Minister. Now, that's not right in the video, but the description also highly likely generated using artificial intelligence. This is concerning. Why would it do that? Is that a mistake? It could be. It might also be deliberate. Why? Because Trudeau is so hated by so many. Why is that? Because so much was invested by certainly foreign governments, political opposition parties to the Liberals in Canada, that they still want to capitalize on that. Chrystia Freeland also portrayed for a long time, and even here we've touched on it. You know, her Nazi affiliations or her fascist leanings, the Bandera flag or Banderite banner that she was photographed with, things like that, or that's the way it was described. And so they've got a lot invested, these propagandists, in tearing down Trudeau, tearing down Chrystia Freeland. And so I think what's going on here, and this is somewhat speculative on my part, but because their systems, this is what's telling me this is likely a foreign government. They're likely not, whoever is like putting in the prompts for the AI, they're probably not up to speed on Canadian politics enough to know that Chrystia Freeland isn't the finance minister anymore, and also not savvy enough or knowledgeable enough in our language and in our politics to realize that the description made an error because of the AI generation and put in there that Justin Trudeau is still the prime minister. That in itself is very alarming to me. Some people who are informed will pick up on that if they take the time to read the description. Probably 90+% of people don't. But it's alarming because what we have here is a self-perpetuating problem where it's first of all propaganda. Secondly, it's propaganda wrapped with truth, which makes it more difficult to detect because there is a lot of truth in the video, some factual information, but then you get these nuggets of lies or misinformation or things to redirect you. But then you get errors. And when their systems are making errors, it's like a domino effect. And if you buy into the lie here, then that begets another lie. And then it's a series of errors or lies. One lie begets another, and some of it inadvertent. It's very concerning to me because people believe this stuff, or they think that this is accurate information. These channels purport to be here for educational purposes, to educate people. But if this is what you think is accurate, this is not. I wouldn't pay to go to school to learn this because it's wrong. Justin Trudeau isn't the prime minister, even though in the video itself, it refers to Mark Carney. Chrystia Freeland is not the finance minister right now. She was. It's confusing to people. It's dangerous. Well, why, Rick? What's the big deal? It's a huge deal. It's a huge, huge, huge deal. Because as soon as you believe this lie or this error, which may not be an error, it may actually be just a piece of information stuck in there because it's designed to maximize emotional response. Just say the name Justin Trudeau and some people have a meltdown. There is such a thing as Trudeau derangement syndrome too, you know. Then the next video or that people will carry that, whatever the lie might be, they'll carry that forward and they'll believe that. And then that feeds into the next lie and the next lie. Pretty soon you have not just a web of lies, but even as Vladimir Putin has said, the West is built on an empire of lies. Except I think that what's happening is foreign governments, Iran, Russia, adversaries of the United States, the West, Canada, European Union, all of us, they are feeding us and amplifying those lies because they know it destabilizes the country. What's certainly even more alarming to me is that I have someone who's a regular on the channel, part of our Maverick community, who comes here, sends me stuff like this, which if I don't detect it, I could easily end up sharing it with you. And even though I'm not, because I believe in free speech and I'm providing an open platform, if not on Rumble One or elsewhere on other channels, certainly over on Rumble 2, where we have all the people who hate my guts, apparently, but you'll come around, you'll like me again. Because we need you. We need everybody, all hands on deck. And these things are being posted over there, and you're being led to these channels. That's what happened with this channel. Johnny posts it. Go watch these videos. Oh, enlighten yourself. You're not being enlightened there. You're into dangerous territory because the value of that information, in my view, is zero. You need to just I go watch it if you want. It's a free world, almost a free country, almost. Go do it if you want to, but I don't waste my time because I know that there could be inaccurate things in there. So I need more credible sources. Not that these are channels run for political purposes by whom we don't even know. And there's another layer of concern for me. Is this, again, is it free speech? When you see the Vice President of the United States jetting off to conferences in Europe and browbeating Western leaders who are concerned about these matters and have rules in place or have even brought in some forms of censorship, where we've seen information warfare through social media being used by foreign governments, especially Russia and sometimes the United States, to influence elections, turn elections, change the destiny of the world through this information warfare. And then he browbeats leaders who are concerned about these things and says, you can't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. I have to wonder why. Then this happening here, while Donald Trump insists that Canada drop the tax, the digital services tax on social media platforms because they're American companies, which they're not. They're international, multinational companies. They're just global corporations. But no, he wants everything wide open. Why though? Like what are we protecting here? It makes me wonder about a lot of things, and it raises some very serious issues. Free speech, information integrity. Should we be regulating any of this stuff? And if so, how much? For instance, with this channel, with Richard Wolff, like if we take this down, is that censorship? I suppose. If we say, because I'm pretty certain I've been looking for any information that I can find on whether Richard Wolff is even affiliated with these channels. It's highly likely that he has nothing to do with them and that they have just used his image and likeness, which in itself is actually illegal or can be illegal. He could probably sue them, whoever them is, because they've monetized the channel. They're using his image. They're using his likeness. They're using his voice. They're using his name, and it isn't him. And then they're putting literally words into his mouth. Probably it appears to be AI generated content manipulated by humans, but who are the humans? And if this is what content is, should that be subject to regulation or censorship, or should that be allowed to just go on? Where do free speech rights begin and end? If these videos then get to the point we may already be there, where these videos are being generated automatically by AI systems, and the words coming out are not even edited or reviewed by human beings or a human being. It's just the computer spitting stuff out based on prompts and then just left to run. And then the computer starts to make its own algorithmic decisions on what the messaging should be. If you impose censorship on that, whose rights are you then potentially violating? Are you violating my right as a consumer to have that information, such as it is, or am I violating the rights of the computer or the AI entity that creates it? Does the AI entity have rights, or does the owner of the system that's generating the content have rights? Does the foreign government, if it's a foreign government controlling that system, do they have rights? Should we be concerned about that? If they are acting in bad faith, should we still allow this to go on? What if the computer is just spewing out information that's harmful to people, which this may well be? Where does it end? Through all this discussion last night, and even when I ran the video and even showed Johnny, and again, I'm not trying to mark you out, John, I'm just trying to make a point, because it wasn't about winning a political argument with you last night or anybody else on this channel. It was pointing out that this is technology that we need to be aware of so that we are better informed, more media savvy, so that we are able to make better decisions, or to be aware of it, so that when we're being fed information in this way, we can be cautious about it and accept it or reject it. I don't think there's any way around it. We're going to be bombarded with it more and more and more, which is why we need to be aware. But even after all that, John was still not convinced for whatever reason. It took a long time. I have to say, I'm grateful for you phoning me after the program last night, and I'm sorry I couldn't speak to you. So many people phoning me, but I spoke to you for just a couple of minutes, and I had to go, so I do apologize. But I appreciate the comments coming back. It sounded like you were positive about it and grateful that we had the discussion and that I made you aware. So I do appreciate that. And I hope that everybody got something of value out of that last night. And I hope that you're getting something of value out of this again, because as Sharon pointed out in the call-in last night, this is happening at an accelerated rate, faster and faster and faster and faster, so fast that if you look at these channels that like this one, this channel is relatively new. And this video alone, just the one on Carney walking out of the trade negotiations with Trump, has generated over 118,000 views. And it was posted just yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. 114,000 in one day. And it's not even a real person. And the channel isn't very old either. How old is this channel? Why is that happening? Well, it's because they're using computer technology to maximize, or optimize rather, the descriptions and that kind of information, so that it's got good SEO, search engine optimization. The earliest videos about a month ago that I can find on here, doesn't look like the channel's been around much longer than about a month. And the first one is only like 48 views, 58, 77, 200. And the numbers start to increase after 2 weeks. And 2 weeks ago, one video hit 470,000 views. The one from just within the last 11 hours, 30,000 views. 22 hours ago, 118,000 views. I've been sitting in this chair for going on almost, well, over 3 years since resurrecting these platforms. Between the shadow banning, the outright bans, the attacks by people trying to shut this thing down, people who hate me and come around just to hit the thumbs down every night. And then just trying to figure out the algorithms. We've gone from originally around 150,000 viewers per night just on YouTube, about similar numbers over on Facebook at one point, down to, what we have now, which is across all the platforms. It's thousands and thousands of people, but nowhere near what we were getting like 3 years ago, because people hate my guts. Some. And because no matter what you do, you ultimately only get what they want to give you. The social media companies. Is that government? Yeah, just sort of. There is that element to it. There's supposed to be private corporations, but in reality, government, the U.S. government has their tentacles in there. And so too do foreign governments, especially in other countries. And it's all definitely being manipulated, influenced by all these factors. It isn't, it's not as simple as just making great videos, putting up a good description, and then thinking that a lot of people are going to beat a path to your channel. It's more complicated. And there's a machine, literally now a machine behind that channel. But there's another new development in all of this. I stumbled across this one because why? The algorithms. Because I was watching these ones with the the AI Richard Wolff economist. I came across this today. Didn't just come across it, it was fed to me, which is also tapping into what Dragon was talking about in his Substack, and certainly in the conversation that I had with him with regard to this. Sorry, I need to find the right tab to show you on the screen what I'm going to show you. There it is there, this one. The growth lecture. So this is another one where they're using, again, this one less sophisticated. They're using an AI generated voice of Richard Wolff, the economist, and some images and some video. But you see the difference here.
Monday.com's AI blocks are a total game changer.
I'm going to run a commercial because it's all monetized, because they get to the threshold of subscribers and viewers very quickly because of the systems they're using. And then you get this.
Workers, students, thinkers, wherever you are in the world, I welcome you. Today, we are not just talking about a dramatic walkout or a headline-grabbing moment. No, we are talking about the very soul of global capitalism, the dangerous illusions of nationalism, and the refusal to face economic reality. When Mark Carney, former governor of both the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, walks out on Donald Trump over tariffs, it's not just a disagreement, it's a warning. And if we don't listen, history will repeat itself. Mark Carney's walkout wasn't just a personal decision. It was a political statement, an economic alarm bell, and a call to consciousness for all of us. He was not a fringe critic or some outsider shouting from the sidelines. No, he was at the heart of the financial system, a central banker, a technocrat, a steward of capitalism itself. When someone with that level of power, access, and stability chooses to walk out, when he looks a sitting U.S. president in the eye and says, "This is too far," you better believe something is fundamentally wrong. That moment wasn't just about tariffs. It was about integrity in the face of destruction. And if a man embedded that deeply in the machinery of global finance can walk away on principle, then what excuse do we have? You see, we've been conditioned to believe that if we're in the room, if we've made it into the system, we're supposed to play along, That survival means silence, that access means loyalty. But let me tell you something radical. True strength is not staying in the room when the room is burning down. True strength is walking out and telling the world why. Carney reminded us that even insiders, especially insiders, have a moral obligation to speak up when policies are not just wrong, but dangerous. And if he can do it, so can you. Maybe you're not in a government office or on the floor of a financial institution, but you're somewhere. You're in a workplace where lies are passed off as motivation. You're in a school system that teaches obedience more than thinking. You're in a society that rewards conformity and punishes resistance. And every day you are faced with a choice: go along with the noise or stand in the quiet discomfort of truth.
Okay. Look at the image that they're using here. Now, this is a sort of a pro-Canada, anti-American, that narrative. Look at the background. It's the United States in rubble, basically, which is kind of where Richard Wolff does talk. That's where a lot of his commentary goes. The United States, a country in decline, the economy can't survive, it's hopeless, collapse is coming. That's what he always talks about. Some things he's accurate on, I think, and then but other things I do disagree with him. And make no mistake, he is a Marxist, and self-proclaimed. Fair enough. You can have those views. I just economically, I don't align with a lot of that. Now, it's just look. I think Donald Trump's new rose garden, if you look very closely, it also has been destroyed by, I'm not sure if it's a bulldozer or some sort of bomb. You have to look really closely. They're right there, just to the left, behind all the other rubble. Anyway, not about the messaging in the video here tonight so much. Well, it is, because that's AI generated stuff too. I'm just saying, you need to be aware. This channel too, not as forthcoming as the other one with information declaring that it's an AI generated thing, and also just coming out and saying this is Richard Wolff. It's not Richard Wolff. It's not him. So right there, I'm like, if it was a Richard Wolff channel and he was making his own version of Richard Wolff, it would be a little bit more acceptable to me, or palatable. But no, I'm really struggling with this. The other thing I'm struggling with is Johnny sharing it with you, because he's directing everyone to it. And we're trying, again, to just keep everything as open as we possibly can in the chat, especially over on Two, for the people who hate my guts, so that you can express your hatred in the fullest possible way and just let it ooze, bubble to the surface and just ooze out and flow over me. Just immerse me in the hate. Let it consume me. I don't even there, I care about you guys, and I just don't want people led astray. And I don't want the platform exploited, either wittingly or unwittingly, by people who share links to sites that may hurt people or just misdirect you. So at the very least, I'm taking this very seriously, and I'm making you aware that these sites are out there. And this other site that I'm showing you right here, it's not the one I just showed you. I believe this one. No, sorry. Too many tabs up. This one here. That site, that's, as far as I can see, it's only been up about 4 days. And in those 4 days, that video I just showed you there Again, the subject matter, Carney walking out of the negotiations with Trump, 33,000 views. And that was 16 hours ago. So that's on its way to generating another big audience. And that channel does not have anywhere near as many subscribers as the Maverick main YouTube channel, but it's generating more views. And it has no thumbs down and about 1,000 thumbs up. And I can tell you that they're probably using bots in order to drive the algorithms by first driving artificial views and likes and thumbs ups. So there's a machine behind it. And that affects the algorithm. They're manipulating the YouTube algorithms in order to get the videos to rank better and better and better and better over time. So in just 4 days' time, they post a video with a number of hours, 33,000 views, to fill your head full of whatever it is they want to fill your head full of. And then you think about where that's going to be in a month, and then in 2 months and 6 months, as all of these things grow exponentially. And they can spit these videos out very, very quickly. This is the other reason I'm concerned about it, because I just spent an entire day editing a video for a client, not related to anything we do here. It was just a sort of a corporate type video, not even a corporate video. It's for a retirement home. But anyway, very nice video. But it took me like a better part of a day to finish up the edits. And now I have to go back and make revisions. It's going to take hours longer again later to make these changes in the way that they have to be done. It's very time consuming. This is me. But we have AI now that can just spit stuff out in a matter of seconds or minutes. This is why Hollywood's under such pressure, and they're afraid of the technology. I totally get it. It's going to put a lot of actors, directors, like videographers like me, video producers, potentially out of business. Although it's opening new opportunities. It's a complicated issue. But look at this. This is just out new now. This is a new called New City. It's a New City, a cyberpunk journey. And it's a film. It's a one-shot AI generated short. And it was, they used 2 different AI platforms to generate all this. They had no film crews, no cameras at all, just artificial intelligence prompts. You have to learn how to use these things. I've been dabbling with the AI even over here. We need to, because if we don't, we're going to lose not just the battle, but the whole darn war. So look at what they've done.
We are now arriving in New City. Please alight from the front of the train.
New City, that's me.
I'm going to pull that down because they probably got this copyrighted, which is a whole other issue in itself. Okay, enough, because if I keep showing it, we'll probably get hit with a copyright, so pull that down. This stuff gets generated very quickly. It's become apparent to me quite some time ago that I need to go here. I need to go there. I need to learn how to use this stuff, because this will be the weapon that will be used, and it's being used right now. It's being used to attack Hollywood on the business side, the arts side of the arts is being used here politically by generating these kinds of channels, and they are growing like a tumor, metastasizing through the social media ecosystem, affecting your brain. It's all affecting us. We're plugged into it, man. So I'm just trying to ring the alarm bell here, because yesterday for me, this is what scared me. We spent all that time. I spent the day analyzing that video, then realizing that it was probably AI. I took time out of my day, which it probably took me an hour to take those two videos and then figure out this one and that one. Yeah, okay, take this and put these together and just to identify and then put about an hour to then put them on the timeline, sync them up, and show the head movements exactly the same so that I could show you guys, especially Johnny, that this is what's going on, man. And then even in the conversation last night, still skepticism that somehow I can't be trusted. Because you're not always accurate, Rick. That's right. I'm not. But I'm not lying. Sometimes I get duped, just like everybody else. Just like a large percentage of the people going to these channels and watching these videos. Some people are now picking up on it. That channel there up now, about a month? The other one up about 4 days. Some people after time realizing it's AI, and at least you're aware that it's AI, so you can arm yourself with that. But a lot of people just watching, it's like newspapers. You just read the headline, and then a lot of people don't read the rest of the story. So you get this skewed perspective on things. If you don't dig a little bit deeper, you just get fed the information. You believe that it's all true when there's the lie in the middle of it, which is what they really want you to pick up on. And that's what's happened here. I've caught people on this program doing exactly that with what comes out of their mouth, and the real human beings, propagandists who have been on this program, only to realize later. Specifically, there was the incident with Zelensky telling JD Vance, what was it, a F off or something like that? Or it was something to that effect. I can't remember the exact details of it, but somebody said that on the program in the course of an interview. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't remember him saying that, but there was a manipulated video out there that went pretty far on social media over about a 2-day period, where they made it look like Zelensky had told JD Vance in that heated exchange in the Oval Office to F off. And he didn't. He didn't at all. They said that he said it in Russian. He didn't say it. It was fabricated. Complete fabrication. Propaganda. And it got legs for a while, and then it died off after a couple of days. And it was debunked by some people who chased after the lie to debunk it, but that takes time too. It's all designed to undermine support for the Ukrainian side. Don't send any weapons. We're not spending our money. La 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 la. Well, that's how it's done. And this is what these videos are being used for too. Well, it's just at an accelerated pace. I'm just trying to open everybody's eyes, make you aware, so that you're at least on the lookout for it. But this is where we're at today. I'm not sure where we're going to be even a week from now, or maybe a month. How much better is all of this stuff going to be in a month? And obviously, I'm using this technology on this platform as well to produce some content. But it's, I think pretty clear what is real and what is, partially or even, maybe even totally created using AI. I'm generating some images for thumbnails with AI, which I'm sure probably picked up on. Not all of it. It's I'm using it to enhance or manipulate or to create background images and things like that for the thumbnails. So there's some AI seeping into the process here as well. I'm trying to be very careful about it and as ethical as I can be, which is to say that I'm making you aware too. It's influencing everything, but I need to go there because I need the efficiencies in order to keep up. But I can't keep up with this. And this is the other reason I'm concerned, because even though this channel far exceeding anything that I've been able to do, because I'm not here trying to get the clicks. You don't build a channel into some giant online presence doing what I'm doing, because I'm not just catering to a particular narrative. That's why the numbers have come down. That's why I've got, how many other channels do you know where they actually bring in the haters? I guess there are probably some, but It's this is not an example of how to do what they're doing. They're hitting all the right buttons to make sure that they generate a huge audience. And that's not about truth. That's about manipulating systems and even human beings in order to get a particular outcome on YouTube, to get big numbers, and then spin a particular narrative and just hammer on that. It's marketing. I know how to do that too. And that's part of what I've done, over the years with my media company. So this is another reason why I kind of know a bit about this stuff. But man, some of these people are so savvy, so behind the scenes, who are manipulating us, these experts or whatever they are, who lurk in the shadows and are using AI to mess with us. And it's all this time just to get one person, mainly yesterday, Johnny, to be aware. And even as I'm showing him, and this is why I'm really concerned, even as I'm showing him, he's still pushing back through the whole program. I don't know, blah blah blah. Not everything you say is real. That's not the point, whether it is or it isn't. And but you can show people and they still won't believe it, because they would choose to believe the lie, because the lie is more entertaining. The lie is more bias confirming. It makes people feel more comfortable. It doesn't blow up their bubble. It doesn't force them to challenge their own beliefs. But again, it isn't about what we believe. It's just what is true. If we don't embrace the truth, we are just doomed to living a life of slavery. What do you mean? Well, because if you're living in a lie, then your entire existence is fake. And that's not freedom. And that's slavery. What's even stranger is that people are choosing this. What's even stranger than that, and ironic, is that Johnny, who has been on here, and I'm not trying to mark you out, John, because hundreds of thousands of people in this exact same situation. But John, like so many other people, what have we heard John say on this program? I don't trust the government, he says. He really doesn't trust anything digital. Only wants to deal in cash. Doesn't like, any digital cards. Doesn't want to be tracked. Really worried about, government surveillance. Everything digital. And what is he done here? He comes here, directs you to websites, social media platforms, YouTube channels, in this case, a YouTube channel that is entirely digital, entirely artificial, entirely, in that sense, synthetic, not real, not organic, entirely political, obviously, all the messaging, entirely political, being operated by, we don't really know for sure whom. And he's posting the link in the chat. Then, as I'm trying to draw attention to this as a potential danger and an issue, he doubling, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling down on it. No, I don't know, Rick. It's, I'm okay, man. Like, I get it. You're skeptical of me. But why are you so defensive of the digital thing? Even after being shown the absolute proof that it is, even shown on the website, on the social media platform itself, saying that it's AI generated, and still trying to defend it as being something that's, I don't know what, like, it's okay. And then posting the link in the chat to have everybody go there. So this is the weirdest thing to me. Somebody who's completely paranoid, totally upset, totally worried about anything digital, being tracked on the phone, worried about lampposts. You know, I don't know if Johnny's exactly worried about the, you know, the listening and the surveillance and the 5G and all these things. Oh, but this is okay. Go, he says, go look at this. He wanted you all to go look at this yesterday. Why? I like Richard Wolff. It's not Richard Wolff, dude. That's not him. So why do you want everybody to go there? Makes no sense. Only a couple of possibilities. Either John is just not believing me still, or at that point, and thinks that, I don't know. Or what else might it be? John, why would John be, you know, so entrenched in this and so defensive of it? Either he is not believing me or thinks that it's okay for some reason, and so he's being unwittingly manipulated by it, and still thinking that this is a credible source of information, a good place to go to get information, to educate yourself, which I really caution you. You may find no. Or the other thing is, he's part of it. I mean, he's doing it on purpose. I doubt it. But it can only be, it's either witting or unwitting. Either he's doing it because he doesn't know any better, or he's doing it because he's doing it on purpose. Because he's part of it. Either way, I'm worried. I knew that this AI stuff has been out there and has been a real danger to us for some time. We knew it was coming, but I think back to probably only about a year ago, a little over a year ago. Lori was on this program. We were having a conversation about this subject. I had been messing around with, I don't know if it was Chat GPT or Grok, both of them pretty, new at the time. And I was writing computer code for a client. And I'm going to try this in AI. And it spit the computer code out in seconds. Seconds. Poof. Done. What would take a human being hours. And I knew, oh, baby, we are like in for a big change. This is disruptive technology. But look where we're at now. You think this stuff isn't going to be used to manipulate the next election in the United States? You think it's not being used now? It's being used now. I was able to detect this. All these people, the Q people, right? There's 5 Donald Trumps and they have 17 masks and, there are now. And 6 months from now, a year from now, I don't know if I'll be able to detect it anymore. I don't know. And then it'll be a trust issue. Will the government or some foreign government or even a big corporation or whomever has the financial means to produce the videos to the level of quality that is necessary to completely dupe people, will they just use it for good or will they use it for self-serving purposes? I'm going to submit to you that there are people out there right now, maybe some of them among us, who are using and even promoting this kind of content to achieve their political ends, not because they want to serve the public good, but because they're serving a political master or serving their own self-interest in order to achieve either fortune or power. Do they have the right to do that? Is that where free speech lies? Do we protect someone's right to manipulate information, manipulate us that way using this kind of technology? Our legislators, our politicians, none of the people in charge are at a level of understanding where they are prepared to be dealing with this. None of them. A lot of these people in positions of political power still have trouble sending and receiving email, let alone know anything about video production or algorithms. I have a client who wants to set up a social media campaign for advertising. And I've been explaining to him for the past, it's been going on a month, how it works, how to set up the ad campaigns through Google. It's incredibly sophisticated. You can do amazing things by tracking people doing things, right? To just put ads in front of people using cookies and chasing people around the internet. A lot of this information is anonymized because of regulations that are in place to protect your identity, even if they collect the digital cookies in order to track you. But very few people understand how it works. This stuff, I haven't been that worried about what Google does, to put ads in front of you, right? I should be a little bit worried about this stuff. I'm worried about right here. I'm worried about that because within months, I think we're going to be at a point where I'm probably not going to be able to tell anymore. I can't tell sometimes whether content on Twitter, when attacks on ships and cities and wars, I'm having more and more difficulty over time figuring out what's real, what's fake with all these wars. What went on in Gaza, what has been going on in Ukraine, what's been going on in the Red Sea. It's very difficult to know. And it's just going to get worse. Yesterday for me was a moment where I said to myself, I think Skynet was just activated because of that. Because Johnny still wouldn't accept the reality that I was putting out in front of him. And he's not alone. It's not your fault, John. I understand. And I think he's coming around. I think he's realizing that, yeah, this is completely fake. Whether he still chooses to absorb that information through that site, get that content into his brain, if he wants to ingest it, do so at your own risk, my friend. I think you're already largely in a state of misdirection because you've been consuming so much of this kind of content for a while, and along with a lot of other people, maybe even myself. Who knows how much of our reality even is reality? Who knows? Well, what you taught in school, was that all accurate? Was that true? You start to question everything, and that's also what they want of all of us, the people who want to destabilize our society, disrupt our country, undermine trust in our institutions. They want us to get to a point where we don't know what's real anymore. And we're about there, aren't we? Big Brother has arrived. And I'm petrified. Because this is happening in a way that even I hadn't been this concerned about it. But because I was getting so much pushback from John last night at the end of it all, and then I was laying in bed and I was thinking about this all night, couldn't hardly sleep. I had to sleep through the day today because I was worried, so worried and thinking about this all night long, petrified by this. Free speech. Is my right to consume whatever I want to consume? Do you want to consume the fake stuff? Is that your right? Who am I to stop you? Is the government to stop you? Donald Trump just makes stuff up all the time, just lies, lies, lies. We know that. It's taken a lot of people a lot of time, including myself, time to wake up to how much he lies, how much he conflates and exaggerates. I don't even know. Like, I was going to talk about all this other stuff tonight. Trump up on the White House, wandering around, talking to the media today, kind of this weird thing. I don't really know what the hell he was doing up there, talking about how he pays for everything with his own money. That was pretty freaking weird. I was like, don't jump, Don, don't jump. He wasn't suicidal, I don't think. He was up there with a couple of other people. And he was making hand gestures. I don't know what he was going on about. It was just a very strange exchange. Then he had this other thing. He was on, was it MSNBC, I think? Yeah, he was on CNBC, sorry, in an interview there, talking about trade, tariffs, China. That was all kind of weird, too. He had this whole exchange about migrant farm workers on the one hand going on about, deporting immigrants, but then at the same time saying, well, we have to, it's hard to replace those migrant farm workers. So we're something about, he's deporting them all, and then they're getting educated, and then they're letting them come back to the country through some crazy, complicated process. It's just more strange, weird stuff. And then there's a clip about the migrant farm workers, how they don't break their backs or something, but if they do, they just die. So you don't have to worry about them. Just bizarro land, man. Just bizarre. Here's another economist. Also, he's very pro-Russian, Jeffrey Sachs. And he's been attacking Trump, from one economist to another. Let's go to Jeffrey Sachs. Also, in many respects, I'm not a big fan of Jeffrey Sachs. Don't like a lot of the stuff that he's done to America. But here he is talking about tariffs, and so a lot of this stuff I can't disagree with him on.
If you take your credit card and you go shopping and you run up a large credit card debt, you're running a trade deficit with all those shops. Now, it would be pretty strange if you then blamed all the shop owners for having sold you all those things. You're ripping me off, you're ripping me off, you're ripping me off, I'm running a trade deficit. That is the level of understanding of the President of the United States. The trade deficit does not represent at all trade policies. It represents spending relative to production or earnings. We call that an identity. I teach it in the second day of my course in international monetary economics. Trump never made it to the second day.
Yeah, but blame it on Canada. And Carney today, talking about softwood lumber, and he has announced, if I can find you this information here, Where'd you go? Mark. There we go. So yeah, he has announced support for the softwood lumber sector. He was in Kelowna, BC, British Columbia. He has a whole suite of measures to support the domestic softwood lumber industry, and said today that that Canada, regardless of what you're being told by Mr. Presidente over in the US of A, Canada does not just dump lumber into the United States. It's a little more complex than that.
It's lumber more expensive for builders here at home, and it foregoes enormous opportunities in fast-growing markets around the world. So to turn challenge into opportunity, with Minister Hodgson, Secretary of State Fuhr, today I'm announcing a series of new measures to help the softwood lumber industry pivot to a growing Canadian market and to the markets of reliable trading partners around the world. J'annonce aujourd'hui une série de nouvelles mesures pour l'aider l'industrie de bois d'œuvre à se tourner vers le marché canadien en pleine croissance et de nouveaux partenaires commerciaux fiables à travers le monde. The first pillar is to give our companies that need liquidity that liquidity in order to address immediate pressures. To do so, we'll provide up to $700 million in loan guarantees. This will ensure that forestry companies of all sizes have the competitive financing they need to maintain and restructure, if necessary, their operations during a period of profound transformation. Second, to make the softwood lumber industry more competitive for the long term, we will provide an additional $500 million, largely in grants and contributions to supercharge new product development and new market diversification. Products such as reinforced timber and low-carbon wood fiber-based insulation materials that are used in prefabricated and modular housing. These investments will increase domestic processing and value added, particularly as technology changes the way we build. This new funding will include initiatives to support Indigenous-led forestry business development and diversification, something that Gorman has stood behind for decades. Third, we will be our own best customer by relying more on Canadian lumber, Canadian softwood for Canadian projects. Canada's new government has a strong mandate to get big things built faster. That means millions of more homes, major new ports, new trade corridors, new energy projects. And as we build bigger and faster, we will build Canadian, prioritizing Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum in Canadian construction. Canada's new government is working to double the pace of new home building to almost 500,000 new units a year over the course of the next decade. That alone could double the use of Canadian softwood lumber in new residential construction, an increase of almost...
Oops. Lost that feed. So enough of that. So as you're seeing, Carney giving support to the softwood lumber issue there. Going to take a little break because I'm queuing up Poilievre, who also is talking about the economy, getting projects built, and he posted today. I want you to hear what he has to say as well. So stay with me. I'll have him on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
As I'm sure most of you know, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, still living in the official residence of the leader of the opposition, even though he lost his seat in the last federal election, trying to get back to status as a member of parliament and an elected member of parliament and into the House of Commons in this by-election now out in Battle River, Crowfoot, where he has now posted a social media video where he was asked a question about Alberta independence, and it sounds almost like he's running for the position of Premier of Alberta here. Of course, he needs to appeal only now to, at this moment, voters in that riding in Alberta, where he has been parachuted into what is a conservative stronghold where they expect him to maybe win, but he's up against something like 200 different candidates. And on this question of Alberta independence, Alberta sovereignty, he posts this on social media. Keep in mind that this is being posted as an advertisement. So whether this question was entirely organic or staged at this event, I don't know. It has the feeling of being real. And his response is, well, I'll let you listen and assess for yourself. And that's why it's an ad. That's why you'll see the Conservative logo at the tail end.
What would you say to someone like me who is a young family and seeing more hope in the idea of the landlocked Western Canada than a never-ending Liberal government? The Liberal government owns the media, they run the universities, they have no shame or integrity. It feels like the game is rigged and that the East will always decide their fate. Why should Alberta and Saskatchewan stay?
That's a fair question. A very fair question. I frankly understand the frustration that people feel. The Liberals in Ottawa have told the West to pay up and shut up. They've attacked Alberta and Saskatchewan's biggest industries of agriculture, oil and gas, to name a few. And they have transferred massive wealth out of this region. So all of those concerns are legitimate. The question is, how do we deal with it? I believe the answer is in building alliances with like-minded Canadians across the country. So for example, Alberta and Saskatchewan should lock arms with Newfoundland, which wants to repeal C-69 so that it can double its oil production. Newfoundland got off equalization by producing offshore oil. Now they want to do gas. We should lock arms with them to do that. You have the First Nations communities along with the British Columbia coast that want to build at least a half dozen LNG liquefaction plants to take Alberta's gas, liquefy it, put it on a ship, send it off to 2.5 billion customers in Asia, and get $14 for a million metric British thermal units instead of $3. That would bring home tens of billions of dollars of wealth for our people across the oil and gas regions of this country. We should team up with the people in the Greater Toronto area who want to see a massive crackdown on crime by toughening up the criminal justice system because they're seeing the chaos in their streets. We should build alliances with, and you might be surprised to hear me say this, Quebec wants to have a smaller, weaker federal government so that they can have more autonomy over their provincial decisions. We should team up with them and say every province, including Alberta and Saskatchewan, should have more autonomy by having less power concentrated in Ottawa. Now you might say that sounds great, but when is it ever going to happen? Well, it did happen. I described the nightmare that that happened under the Pierre Elliott Trudeau period. But a few years later, we got a Conservative government that brought in free trade with the United States, which was a massive boon for the prairies, by the way. It governed the National Energy Program, privatized or got rid of about 25 different federal government agencies and bodies, reduced the size of the federal government in relative terms by roughly half, and in the period following 1984 to 2015, Alberta became pretty much the richest place anywhere in the world. And so it was by building alliances with other regions of the country that we were able to get what we wanted. And that was a great period. Like, look, in the period from the mid-'80s until 2015, when Harper left office, we built the oil sands. Incredible. The oil sands boom happened in that entire time. I think it was really liftoff in the 90s. So that's the incredible past we have. We have an incredible history with Canada, fighting and winning wars, building prosperity, settling the West. And I think we should build on that history by building alliances with other parts of the country that want the same things we do. Thank you.
And as you see, it's an ad. Which makes me wonder, did they have that person ask the question so that he knew that he'd be asked the question and then he'd be ready to respond to it with a canned answer? It felt organic to me. Of course, he'd be, completely out to lunch if he didn't realize that question was going to be coming from someone at some point anyway. So he would be prepared with an answer for that in any event. So I think it's organic, and they've just used it they've just turned it into a paid ad, which is why it gets traction out there, which is another thing they actually can do, is they can throw money at videos too, these AI generated videos, to get them to get traction. And again, Johnny, I hope you don't feel like I'm attacking you in any way. That's not my intent here. Just presenting this information to try to help everybody become a little bit more media savvy and arm people with the tools that we're all going to need moving ahead, because we are in an information war. That's the whole point of that exercise that I'm still going on about here now, unfortunately. And it's pretty clear to me that I need to learn more about ways that this evolving medium can be used for good, not for evil, so that we can battle back against this. But I'll tell you, I'm worried about it. Because in the amount of time that we've spent just talking about it here so I can make you aware, they've probably produced 15 more videos on those channels, and they're spitting them out for good or for bad, whatever. Charlie Angus, New Democrat politician, down in Mexico City at the Pan American Congress, telling elected officials there from across the Americas that the Canadian boycott has challenged the authoritarian regime, as he puts it, of Donald Trump in Washington, and that this defiance should really be exported. I'm paraphrasing here, using the word defiance, but should be exported to other nations. I've got his remarks up here. Let me bring Charlie Angus up with his address to this conference, tying into the tariffs, to deportations, to what Trump had to say today about migrant farm workers. Everything Charlie Angus says here relates to all of that.
Gracias. It's a great honor to be with you again, my cousins from the Americas. As I was flying here, I learned that Donald Trump said he was going to inflict intense economic pain on our nation because we recognized Gaza as a state. What he's saying is that we do not have a right to an independent foreign policy. That's the message. The message he gives to Brazil, that you do not have the right to an independent judicial system. This is the age of gangster fascism. And so if we're going to talk about the sustainability of our planet and the sustainability of our economies, we have to talk about it within the issue of the sustainability of democracy. And, Canadians, we're polite people until we're not. And one time, the issue that makes us very not polite is fascists. We fought fascists in the streets of Toronto with baseball bats in 1933. We fought them in the hills of Spain, and we fought them in every battlefield across Europe. Long before America came to the war, Canadians were fighting fascists. So when you tell us that we don't have a right to a nation, when you kidnap our people off the streets and put them in concentration camps, as they're doing to your people, then we know what we're confronting. We're confronting gangster fascism.
Hang on. They're making money over there. Here we go.
Of Canada right now, because we are in this fragile but powerful moment. I read the polling from last night in Canada. Canadians now are overwhelmingly demanding our Prime Minister support Palestine. There's 95% of the Canadian people want immediate counter tariffs against the United States, and they're willing to sustain economic losses domestically to defend our sovereignty. So it's the determination of ordinary people that's an extraordinary moment. I've never seen anything like this. The willingness of people to come together who were divided and fighting before. But in this moment, we also know that there are powerful forces who would use this period of crisis for their opportunity. And so this is why I'm coming to you, my brothers and sisters in this global south, because we have to be together in the face of the threat. My work in Parliament in the last number of years, I come from mining country. My family were miners. I got to say, I love mining culture. I'm sorry. My town is full of holes. No street lights. But my town built the glass towers of Toronto. And my town built the companies that are in your communities. And we got nothing left but a little museum to show for it. But in my period in Ottawa, I felt the need to go and work with the energy workers in Alberta because Canada is a petro state. We are a defiant petro state, but we often put a nice face on it. And they've politicized energy in a way that has divided the nation. And so I went out to meet with the energy workers, and I expected that I would get a rough ride. And I didn't get a rough ride because they understood the future as much as everyone else. They understood that the planet's burning. They're no fools. Working class people aren't stupid. But they hated that word just transition. And I hate that word just transition too, because coming from a mining town, I never saw just transition. What I saw were people being left high and dry as the companies left town. And so in my first meeting with the energy workers, I said, a just transition from where I'm from, that's when your neighbor has to leave in the middle of the night because they're too embarrassed to say goodbye. That's a just transition that we know. So we need to talk about a jobs transition and a commitment to jobs. And we worked very, very hard to build a plan to build sustainable energy. And the workers and the support we got was incredible. And then the ideological MAGA governments provincially in the West shut that down. They shut down $33 billion in opportunities, potential for 170,000 jobs, because they'd rather burn the planet than offer a way forward. That's what we're dealing with. You talk about disinformation. You know, our right-wing media are thrilled that we're getting rid of our EV mandates for vehicles, even though it would have given such a benefit to our auto sector. The disinformation telling us that they are actually going to break our nation up. That as Donald Trump threatens our country and we see unprecedented unity, we have leaders in the oil and gas sector and their premiers in the West saying they would break our country up unless we do not give more to the oil industry. We gave them $34 billion in a public pipeline. We pay 50 cents on the dollar for every bit of raw bitumen, raw toxic bitumen that goes to feed the United States. And they say, unless we build more pipelines, they're going to break our country up. So that's the threat we're under. And so I want to bring to you where I see the potential for change. because our prime minister is being told we need nation building projects. We need to break ourselves free of Donald Trump and we have to become economically independent, which we must. Nation building projects are about our regions. It's about sustainability. We have had the worst climate fires in the last 3 years. We used to have summer. We don't have summer anymore. We have fire season. We have thousands and thousands of people being evacuated. And our neighbors to the south, the Republicans are sending letters telling us to keep the smoke down as they're bringing in legislation to attack anything to do with clean energy. So we are in this moment, the planet is on fire, and they would rather burn our planet to the ground because that's what gangster fascists do. So I'm going to step outside the box just a bit and give you a sense of what we are doing. Ordinary Canadians have launched a boycott of every single thing American. It wasn't organized, it wasn't planned, it doesn't come from our leadership, it comes from ordinary men and women who won't go into a grocery store and buy a single product from the United States.
Here is why you have a beer belly.
Hang on, you're still making money over there.
And where they're American products, they're turned upside down so you can tell and not buy them. Within 3 months, we started to see produce from Mexico and Peru. So I am here to say we need to build this alliance together where we start to trade and build with each other. We got lots of snow in the winter. It's hard for us to get green foods. But we will buy your foods because no Canadian will buy American. We stopped travel immediately. We are going to cost the United States economy $29 billion this year from people saying, I will not go back to the United States, I will not visit, I will not cross the border. The boycott is a powerful tool to take the fascists on. If everyone was involved in the boycott around the world, CNBC predicts a $90 billion hit to the U.S. economy. They are only going to stop the threats to the rule of law if it hurts. And we have to make it hurt. So I come to you to say that we have this moment of opportunity of our nations to work together because your nations are under threat. Your planet is under threat. Our way of life is under threat. And we cannot build the sustainable, progressive future that we are all working towards if we are under the threat of this kind of totalitarian, authoritarian gangsterism. So our first job in Canada right now is to stop that, but it's also to make sure that they don't exploit this crisis to further the agenda of the planet burners, because sustainability is what we have to fight for, because sustainability is rooted in democracy and it's rooted in the future of all of us together. So I look towards my colleagues here to help us and for us to help you build this democratic, sustainable future. Thank you.
Even over on Rumble, you'll see that it's not just a Canadian thing. We are, and I have to turn that off. I had the audio playing in my headphones. Sorry. I took note of this after looking at the Charlie Angus video. I haven't actually watched this video, but I just took note of the headline, which is relevant here in this discussion. Europeans refuse to visit the U.S. fear of detention under Trump. And that's over on the Kim Iverson show. I don't watch Kim Iverson, but she has a large following. And I found that headline interesting in relation to this, because it isn't just Canada. We're not alone up here in Kazakhstan. A lot of countries being attacked, almost every country in the world in one way or another being attacked by Donald Trump. And I would say that it's not so much America, it's Trump. Trump and an ideology and his core group of people. Back to him over on CNBC today. We'll tap into that now and get you some of that kind of strange conversation. He starts off going on about China, and we get into these other issues today that I've touched on. All this at the same time as these videos, this video of him wandering around on the roof of the White House kind of going semi-viral today.
To talk China.
Well, the sticking point with India is that tariffs are too high. Now, I will say this. India went from the highest tariffs ever. They will give us 0 tariffs. And they're going to let us go in. But that's not good enough because of what they're doing with oil. Not good.
It looked like you were going to have a meeting, and people were talking about it with President Xi, and then you went out of your way to kind of say other people are saying, I think you even called it fake news or something. It looked like you were indicating that you were unhappy or that talks had broken down, and we've had a couple of frameworks or some positive moves. And you know, China, you've had a lot of success with other countries. China is a big deal and a big, not quite the elephant in the room, but certainly an important trading partner. Where does that stand? Will there be a meeting between you and President Xi? Anything planned at this point? What's the sticking point now, and how optimistic are you that we get a comprehensive
Well, I can have
deal?
a meeting. We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal. If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, you know, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? But we're getting very close to a deal. We're getting along with China very well. I will tell you, you know, you had a point when I had 145% tariffs on. I put in for fentanyl. I actually said to people, where are we now with China, by the way? Because I kept adding more and more. They said, sir, you're up to 145%. I said, you got to be kidding. So I sort of had to bring it down a little bit. But when it was up to 145%, meaning we were doing 0 business with China, China was collapsing. I don't know if you know that. You haven't reported it, if you do. But China was collapsing. China is very reliant on the United States. My relationship with him is very good. I think we'll make a good deal. It's not imperative, but I think we're going to make a good deal. But no, they had a thing that Donald Trump really wanted to go there. No, I don't. It's a 19-hour flight. It's a long flight. But at some point in the not-too-distant future, I will. And just to end this conversation in China, I have a very good relationship with President Xi. Always had, other than the COVID moment where I was very angry with him and essentially didn't want to talk to him, frankly, because, you know, it did come out of Wuhan, in all fairness, which I was saying from the day one. I was saying I knew exactly where it came from. But that did interfere with the relationship. But no, I've had a great relationship with President Xi.
I got to say, I'm skeptical of everything coming out of his mouth. I'm skeptical of the whole narrative around that particular issue. I don't know what the truth is, but I tell you this, I no longer trust this guy.
We respect him a lot. They respect us a lot. They didn't respect Biden. They thought he was a numbskull. They couldn't believe he was the president of the United States, and neither can anyone else that happened.
Oh, they're making money there too. Good for them. Hang on just a moment. We'll go back to this. Yeah, all the China stuff. They blame everything on China. Trump does. So.
Reporting that you're prepping an order that they say would punish banks that discriminate against conservatives, including potentially Bank of America. I'm going to be actually talking to Brian Moynihan here later today. Can you tell us about that executive order? What's in that? And what do you think the banks have done?
Well, they did discriminate. I had J.P. Morgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to, if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you're defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many, many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash, and they told me, I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years. They said, and I mean, I had all this. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to And you could ask him. Maybe he's not going to admit it. So I said, I was informed by my people that we have to get out of Chase Manhattan. That's Jamie and J.P. Morgan Chase. So I said, I can't believe it. Well, I was never in this situation before. I've never had anything like it. And it's not like, gee, you defaulted on a loan. I can understand that. That's different. But there's no default. I mean, there's nothing but cash. I have a really great company. And then what happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely, and I speak to him, and I speak to a couple of people, and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president, and when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest-free, the overnights and things. There are a lot of reasons for it, but they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts, and he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly. And I was very good to the banks. I had the greatest economy in the history of our country when I was president. And by the way, our economy now will blow that away, and you see it happening. But our economy now, because we're a rich country again, because of our trade deals, we've become a rich country again. But no,
unless you're the person in charge of the labor statistics and you show that the job growth has been muted, then you're probably going to get fired because he doesn't like the numbers. And yeah, he just shoots the messenger.
They totally discriminate against, I think me maybe even more, but they discriminate against many conservatives. I told that story and sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative. And I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. Banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk, the high IQ people that are radical left, I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators, do everything you can to destroy Trump.
Oh, they're still making money. They're getting rich now. But we won't participate in the ad campaign. We will let this pass. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, Mr. President, you've talked about you want success, not retribution. The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque. I mean, that was a rigged election, 100%.
Okay, we can't relitigate that. We can't relitigate that.
No, we're back to rigging again. Well, you can use it because everyone knows it.
Yeah, we
You know
are.
what? A year ago, you would have been upset if I said it. Today, it's different. I say it all the time. It was a rigged election. It was 100% rigged.
We can't relitigate because it.
And I'm sure that's going to be brought up.
Independent sources, even your Justice Department. But then I'm bringing up Bill Barr. But even they decided that. There were things that happened, but nothing that would have swayed it.
Well, they were wrong, and Bill Barr was wrong, and Bill Barr didn't investigate, and he should have. And why didn't Bill Barr give why didn't he give the Derma report? Why didn't he give that report, the stuff that's in there, that's all this stuff is coming out of it? Why didn't he give it earlier? I mean, why did it take so long to do it, and why didn't he give it, why didn't they announce it earlier? Because it morphed What happened is it morphed into the Biden administration, and the Biden administration buried it. So it's too bad.
How about Texas? Now we're going to do mid-year or midterm gerrymandering based on that's going to be a quid pro quo or something with in blue states now.
Let's take a little break. I'm going to come back and we'll get into another section of this that might just be a little more relevant to all of us here on this program.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, let's go back to this. We're going to get into the economy now. It was an extended interview over on CNBC. Some of it was a little weird. Now we're going to pivots back here now to the job numbers. I believe we're getting into this, and then the migrant farm workers as well, which is also an issue that affects Canada because we also use imported labor to harvest our crops and keep the farms running around here.
By a lot.
Mr. President, Can I ask you back to the economy and just on some of the things we've seen with the jobs report, the weakness in those numbers that came out last week. People are trying to figure out where the weakness is coming from. Part of it may be because of immigration. Now, people voted you into office because they were.
By the way, Canada produced more jobs than the United States in the same period, even though the United States is 10 times larger than Canada.
Concerned about immigration policy in this country. But if you look at the jobs report last week, it did show a 1.7 million drop off of foreign-born workers from March to July.
And that's a great number, by the way. That's a great number because it means we're putting Americans to work.
Well, the problem is immigrants have accounted for more than half of the U.S. workforce growth over the last 3 years. And so you wonder if that gets into an issue. And I know you've spoken with farmers who have had concerns about being able to find temporary workers there.
That's right.
And I think their pleas have kind of hit you in a way where you looked at that a little differently.
Well, I think we're getting the criminals out of our country because they had an open border policy because they were fools, and they allowed people from prisons and gang members and drug dealers into our country. We're getting the criminals out of our country by the thousands, and they're taken. We have murderers. We have people that are mentally insane. They come out of insane asylums and psych wards, and they come out of places that you don't want to know about. You would not like to see it. But they dumped everybody in our country from the Congo in Africa to all over South America. They dumped millions of people into our country that are dangerous people, and I'm getting them out. I'm working with the farmers, however, and the farmers have been great. I also got the highest vote for farmers, I think, that anybody's ever gotten. And I take care of the farmers. I love the farmers. They're a very important part of this country. And we're not going to do anything to hurt the farmers, and we're working on that, and we're going to be coming out with rules and regulations. I mean, you'll see a farmer with the same person working for him for 20 years. The person's even paying taxes and other things. And we're looking for the criminals, the people that murdered. You know, we have 11,888 people that came into our country under Biden, with our great czar, a border czar. She never called one. You know, she was a border czar. She never went to the border, and she never made one call to the Border Patrol. You know, other than that, she did a great job. But they had hundreds of people that were murderers, 11,888 murders, 50% of which murdered more than one person. in our country. We've already gotten a lot of them out, and some of them are so dangerous we don't want to bring them back. We want to put them in our own prison because we don't want them coming back. But they allowed 11,888 murderers, many of which murdered more than one, into our population, and we're getting them out rapidly.
But, Mr. President, I just want to hear you clearly. You're saying the people who have been here for years and who have been even paying taxes, you're going to look at them very differently, and maybe they belong here in the workforce?
They're making even more money. My gosh. I wish we could make money like that over here. Here we go. Going back. And
we want to work with them, and in some cases, we're sending them back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people, that you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it? These are very, in many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
No, okay, so here we go. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. But when you're talking about...
then you don't have to say anything more, Joe.
I got to say this.
No, don't say anything more. Don't qualify it by saying, I got the highest number of votes
you did.
In the history
I'm moving
of
on.
Texas.
I'm moving on to your claim that revision helped Biden hurt you for the 800,000. It was in August. There was still plenty of time for voters to see that those weren't real jobs.
After the election in November, I believe it was in November something, there was a massive revision downward.
The first one, the 800,000 or 900,000, I think, was in August, and then later it came out in March of 2025. It went to 598, not 818. But the original one.
Listen, 598. But there were other revisions downward from prior to the election because the numbers were rigged. Okay, and as you said, the number. Look, you take a look after the election. How many revisions downward there were? But let's get back to Texas, because you said you were going to say something else. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, a record that they say won't be beaten unless I run again.
Are you going to run again? The
no,
Constitution
probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
And you're not going to fire Jay Powell. We'll go all talk about all the stuff that.
Hey, Becky, I'd like to run. I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. You know why? Because people love the tariffs, and they love the trade deal, and they love that foreign countries aren't ripping us off anymore. For years, they ripped us off, friend and foe. And the friend was worse.
Overall poll numbers, you don't have the best you ever had in overall poll numbers. You do. I cited one of those.
I have the best poll numbers I've ever had.
Among Republicans.
I have poll numbers where I'm 71%. I have the best poll numbers. Look,
those are among Republicans.
No. Among Republicans, I'm at 94 and 95%. No, I'm talking about generally. I have the. Let me put it this way: there was a gentleman on Harry Emden yesterday on CNN, and he went crazy over how well Trump was doing. Now, you don't put that on because I think CBS is a shade. Actually, CNN's a shade better than NBC. I think NBC is probably the worst of them all. But if you check CNN tomorrow, watch Harry Emden, and you'll see about the numbers. But that's okay. We have to defend ourselves, Joe.
I know, but there are other. They can cite. Your haters cite polls that have you down in the 30s, Mr. President. And,
but they're fake polls, Joe. I had a lot of fake polls. You also have me in the 70s. I have fake polls. Fox gives me terrible polls all the time. They do nothing, but I've never had a good poll with Fox. And then I win an election, and I go through the roof. Because, look, I won every swing state, did I not? I won every swing state. Andrew, I won the popular vote by millions of votes. Even though they tried like hell to cheat, I won by millions of votes. I won the counties and all of the counties. I won 2,750 to 502. And I won the election in a landslide. And obviously that's only, we're only 6 months in. But my poll numbers are better now, much better than during the election. And now part of that is because the Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's got any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk. They can't talk. They don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched him the other day. He's lost all of his confidence.
40% of the country has. So you're never going to get above 60 in any poll, and it's because 40% have TDS, and we know that. Mr. President, we used to do this every Tuesday. It was called Trump Tuesday. Maybe we can start. This is going to be the start of something again. But we appreciate all your time today, and hope to be able to continue this discussion on all these different issues in the not-too-distant future, if we could.
Joe, could I finish one thing?
Yes.
1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. And that was told to me by every leader of NATO, which they do whatever I want. That was told to me by the King of Saudi Arabia, by the leaders of UAE, by the leader of Qatar, by many. We were a dead country 1 year ago. Today we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I'm very happy to help.
Mr. President, once again, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
He says the NATO leaders just do whatever he wants. Well, he is the president, so I guess you're allowed to have an overinflated ego. But all things come to an end. And people at the top should be careful what they do when they're there, because eventually they come on down. And that is just another example of his bluster. The numbers he spouts off with there to the polling, the confusion, the chaos, and the figures. You can make statistics kind of say anything you want if you really manipulate them. That's an old saying, and it holds true. But the real truth is in there somewhere. If you use the numbers properly and use proper methodology, the numbers won't lie, but you can manipulate numbers to lie. And that, I think, is largely what we're seeing going on with those polls. And the polls themselves, many of them you can't trust, because a lot of them are conducted with a bias in mind, and they ask questions in particular ways to get particular results. So all of what we just heard, how much value is there in any of that? I don't know. Probably not much, because I think probably what is a little closer to the truth after listening to that exchange is that Donald Trump is down in the polls. I think that is probably true. Probably because the jobs numbers really are not good. That's why he shot the messenger and fired the woman in charge of the Labor Bureau statistics. So I didn't like that. You're supposed to make up better numbers than that. And we're also seeing tonight reports coming out showing that inflation is rising in the United States. Manufacturers, producers, retailers, they've been sort of absorbing. Well, what you're seeing, I think, really is residual or built up inventory levels being diminished on the U.S. side. And now with these tariffs in effect on many countries, not just Canada, you are beginning to see inflation take hold because old stock is being consumed, new stocks coming in. These businesses are not able to completely absorb the cost of many of these tariffs, which are quite high, and ultimately it is consumers who end up paying for that. Producers outside of the country, other countries, as we send things to the United States, producers are only going to absorb so much of it as well. Numbers are numbers, costs are costs, and you can only lower your price so much to compensate for tariffs that are imposed by the United States if you're exporting into that country. The purchasers, the companies buying the goods coming in from other countries on the U.S. side are the ones who are ultimately paying those tariffs, and that gets passed on to consumers. And we are seeing inflationary numbers take hold. So we'll dig into some of those stats, I think, in the nights ahead. But what we just witnessed there was a masterclass in deflection and creation of chaos to confuse. Because I think the truth is the numbers are not that favorable for Donald Trump right now, because he's, as much as he might think NATO leaders are just doing whatever he wants, and other traditional American allies, you really have a lot of countries that are afraid of the man, because he does have a lot of power, and we're looking at people who are just afraid of the United States right now. That's being reflected in reduced tourism. It's being reflected in that, not just from Canada, but also, as we saw tonight, from Europe as well. So tourism down, people afraid to go there because you're seeing people arrested. All of these rights being just thrown out the window on the U.S. side. So all of this very alarming as we are being fed, again, this artificial psyop, information warfare campaign coming at us from multiple sides, and Trump even there. What we just watched on CNBC, that in itself is something of a psyop, right? He's trying to convince us or sway us one way or another by throwing out all these numbers and making things up. And a lot of what he says is just bizarre. He lies a lot. And for that reason alone, I just can't trust him. Politicians tend to lie, but this guy, he sets a new standard. And as I said at the beginning of the night, I sent that message out to a good friend. I said, because we were talking about raising the standard, not the tolerance. And that relates to a certain person who's been dishonoring the Maverick family with their behavior and their words. And we may have more to say about that in the night ahead as I reflect on all of that. Because tonight, I'm also just worried that because it's taking so long just to come to grips with the seriousness of what's happening with the artificial intelligence effect on our social media landscape, on our politics, on our minds. I don't know if we really have any defense against this. If it takes this long for us just to have the truth catch up to the reality that what we're looking at on one YouTube channel is fake, how are we going to cope when it gets to the point where you really no longer can tell what is real and what isn't? And we already have people who are, of the mind that you have 5 Donald Trumps, and what if you have 100? How many more of these channels are out there that I'm not aware of that are fake? How many? How far has this gone? Yesterday, I said that we should remember yesterday because that was the day that I think maybe we lost. We may have already lost everything. Because Big Brother arrived, and most of us didn't even notice. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a bird. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a word. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.